Welcome everyone to the Audi SQ5, a car that was lent out to me by Glenmore Audi for a couple days so I could review it. All of their information is linked in the description down below. But what do we have in front of us here? The Q5 is Audi's compact SUV, an incredibly popular vehicle for the brand. And the SQ5 is the hot one. It's the one with the 3-litre turbocharged V6 with 349 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. As a vehicle that's more performance-oriented over the standard Q5, it's going to be interesting to see what this vehicle is like as a performance car. But if you know the current generation of Audi Q5, you know this SQ5. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this car for a proper in-depth look, find out everything that there is to discover with the driving characteristics and what this car is like to live with. And then at the very end of the video, I'll place this car in my ranking system to determine where it lies against other compact SUVs. And so without further ado, let's go for a drive. The Q5 has been one of Audi's most successful models in the North American market. Customers love the compact SUV setup. Right amount of size inside if perhaps you've got a younger family or you're empty nesters, but not small enough that you feel cramped and uncomfortable. Now with the SQ5 in the last generation, it was a 3-litre supercharged V6. But for this car, they have stayed with the 3-litre V6, but have changed the forced induction. It's no longer a supercharger, but now turbocharging. This results in a more efficient powertrain. It has an 8-speed automatic transmission, not a dual clutch 7-speed of what you'll find in the normal Audi Q5, and I'm told this is because the regular dual clutch transmission wouldn't be able to handle the torque and the power of this V6, so the 8-speed transmission had to do, and it's a very good transmission. You have the ability to change the gears with the paddles behind the steering wheel and the shifted down here. In the mornings or a cold start, it can feel a little jolty at times in the upshifts or the downshifts, but once the engine and the transmission is warmed up, shifting this gear manually is a joyful thing to do. There's a really good rumble to this engine when you place this car into dynamic mode. There's a bassy note to it. If you ever change the gears manually and you're driving hard, you'll get these crackles and pops slightly when you're halfway up the rev range, or when you have your foot planted and you hit the upshift. There's a nice little farty noise to the car. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's a good sound. And it has to be noted, the fake Audi exhaust tips. In other cars, more of their mainstream models, it's annoying but forgivable. But for a performance-oriented car that this is downright unacceptable. I don't imagine the day will come when an RS product has a fake exhaust, but when it gets to that point, I'm sure there will be a riot. So the Audi has power. There's no doubt about it. When you want to put your foot into it, it will get off of the line with a reasonable amount of assertion. There's certainly turbo lag lower down in the rev range, but what I notice is that with that kind of stumble you have for the first maybe 2,000 RPM, it very quickly revs up to the 6,500 red line. Obviously, the SQ5 has Audi's Quattro system, and it's a rear bias system in this car, and if you option this vehicle with the Sport differential, it actually has the ability to send all of the engine's torque to a single wheel if the circumstances demand it so. Now that would lend the Audi to have some performance characteristics, and it certainly does. But my issue with this car largely comes with the steering wheel. Maybe not the physical element itself, although I must say it feels quite large for this kind of car. It was the first thing I noticed when I stepped into it. But in comfort mode, you have no connection to the front wheels. And when it comes to even in dynamic mode, the steering doesn't weight up at all. You have close to no clue where the car is pointing, and that's perhaps the biggest letdown in this car when it comes to a performance-oriented vehicle. If you're looking for a faster Audi, this is the car. But if you're looking for a more connected Audi SUV, I don't think this is going to tick your box for a connected and emotional driving experience. This car that I'm in has the coil spring suspension setup, but you can get this car with air suspension, and I imagine it would be absolutely faultless, like the Audi A6 that I had a couple weeks ago. This I don't really have any complaints about. Even in dynamic mode, I'd never say this is harsh or uncomfortable. Nicely sprung, has a bit of suspension travel, and overall a very compliant system. Going down the highway, close to no road noise, and I'm on the winter tire set right here, so this would be louder than the regular summer tires or all seasons or performance tires, whatever you want to think it as. So with this rubber attached, it's the loudest this car can be, but it is near silent on highway driving. This doesn't have a touchscreen setup. This is on Audi's last generation of MMI system. So you have a touchpad down here with a rotary wheel. And with this system, you can change around all of the settings pertaining to the car, your individual driving mode. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration is of course available. And if you want to really play around at night, you have the customizable ambient lighting, which kind of lights up behind this carbon fiber portion here, behind the Quattro badge, and down into the footwells. I would prefer if this system was a touchscreen, as when it comes to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration, the biggest problem I have with that system without a touchscreen is that you find yourself using the dial too much. You take your eyes off of the road for too long. For example, if I'm ever using maps and I want to zoom in on a specific location, look how many button presses I have to do to complete that action. Whilst with a touchscreen, it would be a couple taps easily on the zoom in or zoom out. Not a problem that's pertaining to this particular car, as you know, my Mazda and other Mazdas, and I'm sure there's other brands and vehicles I haven't come across that yet that don't have touchscreen capability with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that would face this same issue. But something to note, irrespective, everything feels really sturdy. These seats are fantastic. For taller drivers, there's actually a little bit of a manually extending portion here for thigh support. As a tall driver, you always appreciate seeing that in cars. Buttons are gorgeous, as they are in any other Audi product. If you just rest your finger where this climate control vent system is here, the graphic highlights a bit, and it's just these little touches here that I absolutely adore. Great use of leather and the carbon fiber that looks really classy in this car, and little inserts of Alcantara here in the door cards. Everything in this car feels absolutely bulletproof. You could go into a war zone using this door as your shield. That's how solid it feels along the central tunnel here. I would like it if this portion of the padded leather extended a little further, but I'm sure that would get filthy very quickly. Things that I'm not so crazy about in the SQ5's interior, and I suppose with all other Q5s, there doesn't really seem to be much space here in the center console and tunnel. Have a little space here that you could maybe throw your phone, and here for some sunglasses, as you don't have a compartment up here by your reading lights. In place of that, however, you have a space to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, almost like a mini glove box. And you have a little component that can slide over the cup holders, but the central console space itself isn't very large. Oh, and another thing is this portion of the door completely wraps around to the very base of it, and I'm not sure if it is totally hard plastic. It sounds and kind of feels like this. There's a little bit of give to it, but in an Audi product, at the very least, this top portion I would kind of want to be a soft padded plastic, kind of like what we have on the dashboard here. You can see these headrests slide forward ever so slightly. This is a nice detail, as it can cradle the back of your head without you feeling like you have to actually lean your neck backwards. And with this exact model that I'm in, we have the advanced safety tech. So I have the radar assisted cruise control, the lane keeping assist system. But for every single Audi SQ5, the standard equipment that comes with it is the heated steering wheel, heated front seats, the panoramic sunroof, tri-zone climate control with the ability to sync with this button here, the LED lights front and rear, the power hands-free tailgate is standard equipment, a 360-degree camera system, and then moving up into the Technic, you'll get a few other nice features available, like Audi's virtual cockpit that we've seen in quite a few other models. The first time I've ever seen something like this in a car, heated and ventilated cup holders. You have a little button down here and you can change these two central to be hot or cold. They both have to be the same temperature output, but they work surprisingly well. The biggest reason I would step up to this Technic though is the Bang & Olufsen sound system. I absolutely adore this system in other vehicles that have the same name brand, but for some reason in this Audi Q5 it's the greatest application of it thus far. Crank up that subwoofer and it quickly overpowers your senses. It is that good. For space in the rear, the Audi has three-way folding seats, so that would be brilliant if you're carrying long items such as skis and 4 other passengers. And in the rear, I could very happily sit behind myself as well. In this Technic model, you can see that back there we have buttons for outside heated seats. As I said in the beginning, the Audi Q5 is an immensely successful vehicle for the brand, and I am confident that this vehicle will continue to be a bestseller for them. The Q5 and the SQ5's interior is sublime, the overall refinement is extraordinary, and if someone's looking for a Q5 with a little more poke, then they will absolutely have to check out this SQ5. But my overall issue with the Q5 is I was hoping for a little bit more engagement, a little bit more performance out of this vehicle. But as I said, if you're someone that's just looking for a little bit more of an exciting engine, a little more power to merge onto the highway, then the SQ5 is something that you should still consider owning. In a world of performance-oriented SUVs, we've got a car such as this that is going up against things like the GLC 43 AMG and the X3 M40i. But both of those cars have an even hotter version. The GLC has the 63 AMG and the X3 is getting the all-new M version. So with that new competition here or already on its way, does that mean that in the future we are going to see an RS Q5? Well, now more than ever, that seems like that reality could happen. Many thanks have to go out to Glenmore Audi that lent the SQ5 off to me for a couple days. Again, all their information is linked down below. Please be sure to check out their dealership and their website if you have any concerns or interest looking into buying a new Audi vehicle. And that's been everything for me. Thanks for watching the video. Please like it if you liked it, share it if you think other people will like it too, and if you want to hit that subscribe button just down below, that does the world for me. Once again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.